This is actually a really good Friday for a lot of reasons. Number one, the NFL schedule was released. Number one, it starts the weekend. Number two, the NFL schedule was released last night. Number three, NBA practice facilities are starting to open up.
And number four, just one day closer to the next episodes of MJ.
That is very true. I'm glad you brought that up because, those have made my weekends for the last however long it's been going on now. But yeah, so Friday, still an important day. Also, I don't know about you, but just being around here in Stillwater, I'm seeing signs of life, if that makes sense. We have, the parking lot and the parking spaces out here in downtown are a little bit more full and more people are going into restaurants, and it just seems a little bit more normal around here. So I hope that's the case for most of our listeners in some form or fashion. Also, don't forget, Mother's Day this weekend. So that's definitely an important day to not forget. If you could rank days not to forget, holidays, I think Mother's Day is probably up at the top if you want to avoid issues later on down the road. So, yeah, there's your reminder. You got it from me.
Yeah.
You got it from the Afternoon Sports Drive. You can say.
See, I was even preemptive with it. I was on the phone with my mom and dad earlier this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, because we had to take our 1-year-old dog to get surgery on a growth that she had on her leg, and so she's been miserable since yesterday. And like she's got we actually switched out the cone of shame for a donut of dignity. Apparently is what they call it.
Donut of dignity.
Yeah, apparently that's what it's called. Yeah, and but like she can't run, she can't jump, like she's having troubles, getting, sleeping and stuff like that, and she's not able to do anything really until Monday. So I already told my mom, I was like, happy Mother's Day in case I forget, because my hands are going to be full for the next 2 to 3 days.
That's right.
With this dog, trying to keep her from licking her wounds, keep from licking her raw flesh from where they had to do the IVs and stuff like that. So yeah, I fortunately I got in early just to be safe.
There you go. That's always a good idea. And, for those that end up seeing their moms or whatever, I would suggest not putting off the whole getting flowers or whatever until Sunday, because good luck with that. So there you get our update for Mother's Day here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. We've got a lot of good stuff coming your way. As we said, the NFL schedule was released last night. It's kind of like a holiday now all of a sudden, because the NFL has just run this offseason, by the way, and everything that's gone on with sports being shut down. The NFL has just done a fantastic job with everything that they've had. The crazy free agency, the draft was well done, and now the schedule release, which has got a ton of talk, and we'll talk a lot about it as well. We'll break down the Chiefs schedule. We'll break down some of the Cowboys schedule and some of the games that grab our attention right off the back in week one specifically, too. There's a lot of good games coming up. We'll talk about all that. And what we're going to get into first, though, is Jason's alma mater is in some serious trouble.
Well, that's the thing, is like right now I don't know if I consider it serious trouble.
I do.
Or it's a shouting fest right now from either side is what it seems like. It's like it's so contentious from both sides. It's kind of weird in a way, because I see both, because again, and people argue I'm looking at it with the crimson and blue glasses, but like I see both sides of the argument. Like the KU's taking the stance of, well, everything you're saying we did was been disproven in court of law. It was found out to be it was all Adidas, and it's just weird, the back and forth bickering between KU and the NCAA right now.
I like to look at it as, it is back and forth bickering put into adult words, if that makes sense. When you read the transcripts and everything that's involved, it's all this big language, but it's basically, you did this, no we didn't, and yes you did, back and forth. Yeah. And I read through all of it today, and I've been privy to it before whenever the allegations previously had come out. Kansas obviously responds and says, no, this is not us. We don't take responsibility. Yeah. And the NCAA replies with a 92-page response of why, yes, it is your responsibility, and we're going to come at you with everything we have. So when you look at it, Adidas, first of all, who is one of the main issue here.
Yeah.
And has been in other schools.
Yeah.
This is
not just KU.
No, yeah, this is no different.
KU, I think it feels like NCAA is wanting to, no matter what, they're wanting to make the precedent set with KU because while, yes, it's a blue blood and it's a flagship, you want to set the tone there,
right? Instead
of going out and targeting an OSU only, who obviously with the assistant coach and stuff like that, because this isn't just your typical run of the mill academic scandals like at Missouri and North Carolina. This is blatant cheating,
right?
The system of amateurism,
which we'll describe here a little bit more in case people haven't really heard about it yet, is when Adidas basically offering monies to people that were players that were going to come to Kansas, offer them a lot of money,
or their families.
Their families. Yeah. That was the big one right there. Is that a lot of that money was supposed to go to their families, and that's right there what I think brings in when these players know they're like, okay, that's wrong, but when the Adidas comes in and says, hey, I've got $100,000 that I can give to your family and you, a lot of them go, you know what, I got to take that.
Well, and that's been I think the toughest thing for this situation is because obviously with OSU we saw it coach to player, there's clear situation there, but a lot of the stuff with Kansas and some of these other programs, it's they're arguing, well, Adidas paid the families, the player didn't know about it, the coaches didn't know about it, you had rogue entities doing this, and I think NCAA is saying, well, the whole you should have known. As the head coach, if you're the student athlete, how can you not find out that your parents, suddenly are driving a car that they typically can't afford? I think that's where the NCAA is trying to step in and say, okay,
they are.
You should have known about this.
And that's where it gets me as somebody who has had reason to hate Kansas all my life growing up in Missouri, okay? But also because just looking at this from an actual, professional perspective here is how would Bill Self not be involved? But in some form or fashion, with that amount of money being exchanged to different players. And the thing that got me was that representative, his name was, I have it here, TJ Gasnola, was a representative for Adidas that was criminally charged and was fined and is put on probation and all this. He had sent that text message to Bill Self telling Bill that he let him down when DeAndre Ayton signed with Arizona instead of Kansas. So when that happens, right there, it's almost as clear as you can maybe get it without it actually being put out there. But the thing is, people don't realize text messages don't go away, okay?
Yeah.
So when that's out there, that's going to be pretty exculpatory evidence. You throw it out there, and all of a sudden, Bill Self is like, how is he going to deny that one, though?
But that's the same thing is from a lawyer standpoint. And it's tough for cases, especially in federal, and that's why NCAA I think has a little more wiggle room. Is the fact that does he openly say we paid him and it didn't work out? Like the fact that the wording, and because that's the thing is Bill Self or whoever the way they worded it could have been joking. We don't know. That's the problem with text message, is because I deal with it on Twitter all the time or via text message with family and friends and whatnot. Half the time people don't know when I'm being sarcastic. And that's the tough thing, as from a legal sense, if you're a lawyer, to try to prove that he wasn't just joking because in this text message, if he doesn't explicitly bring up paying the player.
Right. Let's go to the phone line. You're on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Go ahead.
We've had this conversation before, but it is really just frustrating how the NCAA, how they operate, who they hit with this stuff. And I'm not trying to pretend Kansas something wrong, but it's like Oklahoma State years ago, and I know it was years and years ago, they get just slammed with all these restrictions and punishments and things for some recruiting violations or whatever. And then you look at something like what Ole Miss did a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, and I say that because they did it for a few years, and just total disregard to any rules, paying tons of players a fortune to go out and play ball, and then North Carolina their players aren't going to class. They proved they weren't going to class. They didn't even know where some of the classrooms were that they were supposed to be, going to.
Yeah.
And when you do that, now you're getting paid. Now you're a professional because you're not going there to go to school. They're paying your scholarship and all that stuff to play basketball. And so North Carolina does it, and Roy Williams, who is a Turk, for some reason NCAA seems to like him an awful lot. And his school, well, their comment was, we are no longer going to be in the business of I forget the exact wording, but we're not going to be no longer in the business of checking test scores or academia or whatever. I'm like, but the year before that, there were 3 different players from 2 different schools that basically got kicked out of school because of the same thing that North Carolina did, but wasn't a blue blood.
Here's the thing. With the NCAA, this is a perfect example. Like you're saying, when they grab Kansas and they go, no, we got to make an example out of them. I don't think that there was any type of bias, for instance, with North Carolina. I think that something like what they got caught with, as Jason kind of even said, isn't going to help you, I guess, necessarily on the basketball floor. I mean, you didn't say that completely.
I was just going to say, a year later, you could argue maybe it did because now that they're actually having to take classes, they're terrible.
Well, yeah. No, that was a lot of other reasons. I've chalked that up to injury for a long time. No, but so for instance, like in Kansas, when the money's being paid to get elite players to come to your school to play a sport, that's going to directly affect the product on the court. Not going to class at North Carolina, I don't think is really going to affect the product that much on the court. And I would back up Roy Williams in that as well through everything because he didn't really have a ton of knowledge is what he says. Now, is that true or not? I don't know. But he says that. Now, for Kansas, here's what I think about the NCAA, okay? They're almost like, and I'm never going to be the type of guy that's going to go out and really defend the NCAA. But there's sometimes like that parent that has to be the quote-unquote mean parent sometimes, because they still have to go by the rules that are in place. They have to discipline, and they have to go after when rules are broken. So that happens sometimes, and all of a sudden they're the really mean guy. They're the one you don't want to mess with in the NCAA. Now, has there been times where they've been completely ridiculous? Absolutely. But this right here also proves why so many schools and so many officials at the legislative levels have said, look, we need these players to get paid for what they do here so we can avoid situations like this.
It almost kind of feels like the NCAA, since they know they can't do anything about the true culprit in this, the Adidas, because, I mean, they have no legislation to deal with them. Obviously, you can't necessarily go out to one of the biggest shoe companies and sponsors of not just KU, but, a lot of athletic departments in NCAA and tell them, shame on you, you can't be, you can't have these contracts anymore. So you go after the only thing you have control over, and that's the university.
Yeah, but they're just, my argument has always been just how inconsistent they are. One team, if it's an SEC football team, that can happen. If it's, a Pac-12 team or a Big 12 team, you might get hammered by them. In football. In basketball, it might be this school, maybe not that school. And I get it. I mean, Kansas is a blue blood right along there with North Carolina, so there wouldn't seem like there would be any reason why they would show any favoritism in that, situation. But
I think it's also interesting when you're talking about the fair punishment and whatnot. Well, you look at the assistant coaches, like here at Oklahoma State and across the country. It was all you really caught from them is those assistant coaches basically are not going to be allowed to coach anymore. But you just disregard the fact that why wasn't there a lack of institutional control at these universities? Why don't you go after them? Because there's actually a direct connection within the program that you've caught them red-handed with money being passed along to players and stuff like that. So that to me is another example of, okay, it's a little different because one's recruiting, but the other one was still paying current players, all these assistant coaches to direct them towards agents. That's just as bad.
And I don't think the NCAA would, want Kansas, for instance, off the court next season or anything like that. That drives their product, right? It really it does.
I mean, they already got a postseason ban this year, so
yeah, no kidding. Everybody did. So when you throw that in there, that's where the whole fairness thing comes into play. And you saw it with Louisville too. It just so happens that I think the evidence that they think they see here is too egregious to not punish as much as they possibly can. When they see it in those cases like Louisville, where it was completely out there for everyone to see, and Kansas, where, again, like you said, in court hasn't necessarily all been proven, but there is a lot of things that are just like, this is too shady to not investigate more. For instance, the text message. So the NCAA has to crack down on it. If they're being completely honest, again, do they want to keep Kansas off the floor, for instance, or limit them in the postseason? I don't seriously doubt that.
You know, in a weird sort of way, it might have been, I mean, all this stuff happened in the end of the season. More attention would certainly have been brought on this with Kansas. Had the tournament gone through and they won it all, there'd be much more attention. Like, well, they won the national championship, and here's how they did it. And they cheated, and now they proved it, and that would last forever. Whereas now, you don't have to have that asterisk or whatever, and they wouldn't do that in the record books. But you know what I mean. Like, well, that's how they won it. There's not. They'll never mention that now. So it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of weird how that worked out, but it's almost better that it didn't in their case.
Well, and I also find it interesting the fact that the NCAA is, making comments like, that KU's obviously showing a blatant disregard and stuff like that. But you go back and you see, when they first heard of these allegations, they were sitting players, or you had one that shipped himself overseas. Like it's almost like the NCAA forgot about the fact that once they found out about these allegations, they shut those players down. Or shut down the recruiting for those players and things like that. Like they were proactive once they found out. But again, I think NCAA is trying to make the case that they knew beforehand. And again, that's the hard thing for NCAA, and obviously it was for the federal courts, is to prove that you knew to begin with.
And that's what I think, for instance, Kansas, and I'm of the belief that they 100% knew what they were doing with all of this and knew that they could maybe get away with it by knowing that, hey, if this does blow up like it did, we can deny all of this by saying we had no idea and we're responsible. And if there's not a lot of proof out there, which it looks like there may not be as much as it can, be proven in a court of law and actually force that issue, then maybe that's where Bill Self and all them are sitting like, look.
Here's the thing you have to be careful, though. If you're saying that those text messages were accurate, saying that, that Bill Self knew and whatnot, well, then you also have to keep in mind that they talked about how they essentially couldn't be outbid by Duke. Well, then we need to take those same text messages that the NCAA are saying were true, and then go after a Duke or North Carolina or all these other, that people were saying that they're essentially paying for athletes, for recruits as well. I think that's the danger that the NCAA has to be careful of. If you're going to claim that what was said in a text message that might have been a joke, might not have been, is true, well, then you have to take that all aspects of it were true, which means that they also, in those text messages, insinuated that other programs are paying as well.
And we would all be very naive to not think that this doesn't happen at universities around the country and hasn't happened since they formed, because it has. And that's why it shows too. You think that after the Louisville situation, for instance, that teams maybe would respect the NCAA a little bit more and toe the line? Absolutely not. They go behind the NCAA's back all the time.
You can't tell me. I think Creighton was one of the assistants. If Creighton is getting caught up in this, and you can't tell me that every single university, even the powerhouses where there's more money, there's more desire and need to win. Again, we can bring up Kentucky, especially since people always talk about that's the reason Eddie Sutton didn't get in, is it hasn't gotten in until now, is because of what happened when he was at Kentucky. But there's a head coach there that every university that he's left with scandal.
Absolutely.
From illegal stuff with the NCAA. So you can't tell me right now Calipari is 100% squeaky clean, because he's never been.
If it means one more 4 or 5 star recruit, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yes, it will. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
All right, so that's what I've said for a long time, and it kind of came more to the forefront after the huge Louisville scandal was, look, the NCAA doesn't govern these teams. It really doesn't. I mean, these teams govern themselves.
Yeah. And maybe that's what the NCAA is wanting to take a hard stance with KU, because they know if the feds get involved with other universities, and they realize, hey, it's not just KU, it's not just the assistant coaches at these handful of universities, and they discover just how deep it goes, whether it's with the shoe companies, with the AAU coaches. There goes their stability as NCAA, as amateurs, as their March Madness, their bread and butter money makers. It just all falls apart around them.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. You're on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Go ahead.
And great conversation. I was hoping you guys would lead off with this. I love the NFL scheduling, but this is big news. Big 12. It looks to me like Kansas has got a major problem because there's a pattern going on here. You mentioned about the DeAndre Guyton text that they got Self on. The pattern continues after Kansas signs the big Adidas contract, then Self texts says, but you got to get us a couple more guys. So there's a pattern here, in my opinion, that continues between the Adidas guys and the coaches from Kansas. It's not just one incident. There's several of them. And let me ask you this. In last fall's hearing in New York, if you remember that judge up there, the lawyers for the Adidas guy was trying to introduce information that would prove that the Kansas coaches knew about it. And that judge up there said, no, the Kansas coaches are not on trial here. You guys are. So he would not allow some of that information to be brought into the court. Now, the NCAA gets their turn, and the NCAA has all the stuff that the FBI had, including the stuff that judge wouldn't allow in the criminal case. Do you see it that way or not?
Yeah, I mean, they could probably ask for that stuff, but again, a lot of the stuff, a lot of this stuff is still an ongoing investigation with the FBI. But in regards to those, the stuff that the judge didn't allow in, as long as Adidas lawyers were willing to turn it over, I would assume that they would have access to those, even though they weren't brought up in a federal court.
And I think too, the NCAA, they have that idea of, look, kind of what I'm thinking, you're not going to convince us that Bill Self doesn't know every single thing that goes on within this basketball program.
Absolutely.
Kansas is one of, if not the top basketball program pretty consistently, right, and has been for a long time. You can be argued that he is in control of it all. He knows all about it. Now, the question is, can the NCAA prove that without a shadow of a doubt? Because I think what they want to do here is ultimately throw that clause out on coaches where, I can't remember the name of it now, they throw that certain clause out that could possibly suspend him for a year. If they were able to grab Bill Self and get him out of the coaching for at least a year, I think they'd still consider that a win.
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and I also think that I've seen the way the NCAA operates, and tell me if I'm wrong on this. But when these schools get in trouble like this, what the school expects, or what the NCAA expects, is the school to cut these guys loose. Now, in this case, Kansas is throwing all their weight and all their resources behind the idea of keeping Bill Self. We've seen it with Chip Kelly at Oregon. When they got in trouble, when Kelly left Oregon, the NCAA then backed down about really hammering their football program, because the guy that committed the crime, so to speak, was the guy that went down the road. So it seems to me that this is going to be a bitter fight, and it seems to me that the powers to be at KU have got to either go this direction, and that is, we're going to go all the way with Self and take our chances, and we may get hammered, or we're going to figure out a way that Self takes off, leaves the program, goes to the NBA, and then the NCAA kind of says, well, you know what, if you guys are going to go that direction, then it's going to be a lot lesser penalties that will accept the program. And to me, it comes down to, do these schools think that this program is all Bill Self? No. If Bill Self went down the road, they could go to Maryland and hire Mark Turgeon tomorrow, and they'd probably keep right on clicking. So what's KU going to do? I don't know, but we'll see. Hey, guys, great conversation. We'll continue to listen. Thanks.
Appreciate the call.
And that's why, I almost have to wonder if, because again, you have a new AD there. He's only been there a year and a half or so. He's, why would he not just, we'll cut him? Because that's the thing. We got to keep in mind, maybe not a lot of people understood it as well, but there's already been some disgruntled fan base and boosters when it came to Bill Self before this.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, we haven't won a national championship since 2008, this, that, and the other. Even during the run of conference championships, there were still people like, hey, we're not about winning conference championships. We need to win championship, national titles. So I don't it almost feels like to me like they believe that Self and this program did nothing wrong, they being administration and AD. Because otherwise, why would you not consider just saying, hey, we'll cut our losses, like the caller said, cut our losses, move on, if they feel that he did something wrong?
That's why I think that Kansas so far has probably done a pretty good job of cleaning up what mess was left out there, because they've come out and denied all these allegations, right? They said that in their response, that they're 100%.
They've been firm the entire time.
Yeah,
There's been no wavering.
Have not wavered.
Not, we'll do this.
Right.
Because the big thing was, when this first kind of started with the interaction with the NCAA, originally the NCAA said, we'll be light on you if you admit the fact that Adidas is a booster.
Right.
And KU said, no, it's not. It's our partners.
That's why I think too. Like I said, the university has gone through and sat down with Bill Self, I'm sure, and said, look, is there anything out here?
And Curtis Townsend, the
Curtis Townsend, that's right.
Also definitely been involved
and
in
the
this.
football program as well, we have to remember, is also facing a couple of
although that's from the previous head coach.
It is, but that's just kind of side stuff.
Yeah.
But so, and we'll get out of here real quick with our break. But yeah, that's what I think is happening right now, is that Kansas is making sure there's not any smoking guns left. They've cleaned it up and come to the realization that, hey, we can deny all of this, and they're not going to be able to prove it. The NCAA can fight it as much as we want, because we know the NCAA doesn't give up on things. They'll keep going on this, but if it means even Kansas continuing to play years on down the road before something comes from this, they're fine with that.
Because right now the argument is KU saying nothing's been proven. And NCAA saying, well, you're not denying it. Well, it's like, well, there's nothing to deny if there's nothing to prove, if nothing's been proven.
Yeah.
So I think KU's taking the smart stance right now, and I think NCAA is almost waiting for them to flinch. But will NCAA just finally, just back off, or will they go hard and say? Because that's the thing the NCAA has to be careful of. If you come down hard and suddenly you find yourself in a lawsuit because you did this, and there's again nothing proven.
Exactly.
Then
which they will.
Then I don't know. Have we ever? I can't remember a time where an institution sued the NCAA for a decision.
Yeah, no, not off the top of my head, but I'm telling you what, the fallout and the argument going on between these two is fascinating.
Yeah,
really fascinating to watch how it unfolds. When we come back, we'll talk NBA. Some practice facilities are reopening. Also, Steve Kerr said something that I think I kind of agree with for once. We'll talk about that as well in the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Levitating off the blacktop. Used to struggle getting started, now I can't stop. Used to be the quiet kid in the sandbox, now it's hands up every time that your man rocks. They ought to stop me coming in again. You mad? You thought we were synonyms? Too bad that's the water you're getting in. You're too fat for the sharks that you're swimming in. Where I'm sitting, contenders are looking like fruit spinning around in the blender. Hardly a snack when I'm here looking for dinner. I eat them, delete them, they're barely beginners. Main course is my main sport. Play major, but minor's my main fort. Put a chain around everything I came for. Look, but don't touch, sucker, tell them take an IOU. Say they want respect now, thinking they deserve to have
It's the afternoon sports drive. We're on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Friday afternoon, Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. Hope everybody had a great week. We're wrapping it up. You're at the right spot to finish it up here. Get on to the weekend. Don't forget, again, cannot stress this enough. Mother's Day, Sunday. Don't forget. That would be about as bad as forgetting your mother's birthday, your significant other's birthday. I mean, come on, fellas. Talking to the fellas here mostly. Come on now. Don't be forgetting about Mother's Day. It's important. Something else that's important. The NBA moving forward. Still, you know what? I see everything coming out with we're gonna try to do this at Disney World. We're gonna start reopening these practice facilities. Like, and then you get reports, well, we just don't know. We just don't know if we can get back, and there's all these stipulations, and we want to. There's only 2 weeks left, but there's too many buts. There's too many ifs here. I just don't see the NBA coming back. Now, they're opening the practice facilities, and on top of that, they're going to allow every staff and player, asymptomatic people to be tested for COVID-19 every time. For instance, in California, the Lakers and Clippers are both going back, and they've announced, hey, we promise we're not taking these tests away from the public. There are plenty to go around right now. A lot of other teams are doing the same thing. So I guess I appreciate the idea of trying to get back and the effort maybe even. But if they don't jump on this whole Disney World idea before they run out of time, because that's the problem to me, is that we haven't heard an official announcement or anything even close, which I think close to getting by now, and maybe mid-May is when we were hoping to hopefully hear something more solid, and that still hasn't happened. I don't know, are you still with me on the NBA not coming back? Or has it shifted for you?
I feel like at this point, with how much they're kind of dragging their feet on it, is they want to come back, and I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to take the approach of we're going to come back, we're not going to finish the regular season, and even go as far as saying we're going to start with the conference finals. Mm-hmm. Or even the quarterfinals, where maybe you do the top two or the top four from each instead of the top eight. But I don't see how right now that they can actually get something in place, location, get people back ready, prepared to finish up the last 2 weeks of the regular season and do a full slate of playoffs. Because that's the thing is, like, yeah, there were some times where you probably had 2 days off between games, but for the most part, it was the reason you had a day in between is for flying, stuff like that. So I just don't see how you're not going to be able to avoid impacting next season and still finish what you're wanting to do, unless you do something drastic like just starting straight into the playoffs, trimming down the playoffs, and the longer you take to make that decision, the more difficult it's going to be able to do that.
If the NBA wants to award a champion still, then that's what they would have to do is, like you said, first of all, just go straight into the playoffs, because I don't. And this point right here that I'm about to say, what Steve Kerr mentioned, will kind of, I think, almost empirically put that on there. Hey, look, we don't have time to go in and finish 2 weeks on top of this, because he said that the Warriors, for instance, have been in off-season mode for a while now. And, I said, well, no crap. They were 15-50 anyways this season. They've been in off-season mode all year. But they are one of the teams that has no chance. So, basically saying, look, why would non-contending teams want to go back and play 17 more games just because? What's the reasoning for them to want to come back? I mean, when you could really count it as an extended off-season, extra time to heal and rehab, which they've had now anyways, but you add that onto it, it ultimately leads to a more successful year, and the Warriors are going to be a good spot in the lottery anyways. So what it does tell me is those that have non-contending teams that have no chance, they probably don't want to come back. And the Warriors owner saying, hey, yeah, they do. Our players care about the NBA. They want to come back for the NBA. Bull crap. They want to come back for the NBA. They don't care. If they're not in a place to make the playoffs or win a championship, then they don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, Draymond cares about flapping his mouth all offseason and all this whole time.
Yeah.
And Steph cares about being hurt even though he could lift up his wife with his hurt wrist, by the way.
Yeah.
The Warriors have just been a farce this whole season. Now, you can name any team in the NBA that is also not going to contend for a championship. And really, if they were to answer honestly, would they be like, you know what? For the NBA, I would just love to come back and play these games just for the league. But no, not at all.
No.
I don't buy that at all.
I think it's ultimately the NBA is looking at it as we need to fulfill our TV contract. So we need to play those last 2 weeks of games to make sure that the money that we've been hemorrhaging the last 2 months at this point, we can start kind of breaking even, because we still got those those games, because you're already going to lose. I don't see, no matter what, you're already losing the ticket revenue and the concession sales and all that stuff, but you can at least try to push it closer out of the red if you have the TV games for that. But yeah, I don't think it's nothing about for the league. It's about the money is what it is. And again, looking up I was trying to figure out timeline wise. The preseason for next year, if you compare it to this past season, starts in the beginning of October.
Okay.
So if you're pushing things back, if you're saying we want to play the rest of the season, we want to play a full playoff schedule and whatnot, which again, the playoffs. Here's the crazy thing: the NBA Finals will be starting in about a month. Well, we are already a month after when the playoffs would have started.
Oh, yeah.
So you're looking at essentially you need 3 months remaining to finish up the regular season and all the playoffs. And that's even if you trim down some of the playoffs, get rid of some of those extra off days.
Well, and include...
But that's the thing. Does TNT and ABC and ESPN, are they necessarily wanting to now compete for playoff TV time because you're having to condense it? No, they're not going to be willing to do that. So right now, if you need 3 months to finish up your season, that means if you're wanting to start next season, where you actually get back in camps and then go to preseason in October, you need to be done by July.
And then throw in how long they would have to train to come back, right?
Right.
So what,
right.
2 or 3 weeks maybe, or almost a month? And look, ESPN and TNT, they're sitting on a huge overpriced contract right now anyways with games that, by the way, weren't getting ratings, okay? Now, they might now if they restart just because there hasn't been any basketball, and playoff basketball would for sure. But at this point, I would also think that the average fan, even, that's not a diehard NBA fan, is like, let's move on with this.
Yeah.
Let's go into Major League Baseball because they run the summer.
Yep.
NBA runs Christmas Day.
I usually don't pay attention to the NBA until typically the NBA Finals, maybe the conference finals.
Yeah, I'll pay way more attention then than I will regular season. And I think so would any other average fan. That's just how it is in the NBA. It's not as entertaining and every single day, Not like with the Jordan documentary, for instance, it used to be, at least from what I'm seeing. But
I almost feel like the NBA, not only do they want the money from TV contracts, but I think they're also seeing the same stuff that we're seeing of fans are desperate for sports. So if they could be the first ones, even if it's in empty arenas or empty gym, high school gymnasiums in Florida, you're going to bring a lot of eyes to the product that maybe you normally wouldn't, and thus, improve your opportunity of making more money.
And they've said that because, they were the first to really get it all shut down. Right, so they've said we'd like to be the first team to come back.
Yeah.
Because I wonder how much, too, the NBA might feel as a whole kind of responsible for all this with Rudy Gobert being basically patient zero.
Yeah.
If they were, it would make a good storyline if they were able to say, "Hey, look, we got back first. We're going to finish. We're going to do it our way here, however we can." So, I don't know. I would be in favor of just scrapping the season and moving on, looking forward to, because it looks way more like a potential for Major League Baseball to start soon. Anyways, maybe within a month now. Honestly, from what we talked about yesterday, compared to the NBA. Maybe or maybe not. Are we going to go to Disney World? Are we going to not go to Disney World? Are we going to have enough tests to even let people, players and staff in? Well, whatever. All this. It seems like too many ifs and buts, and I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
When we come back, we will discuss a little bit more about Alex Smith. I don't know if you saw the E60 yet, but we'll talk about it just a bit. Also, it was his birthday yesterday, and the video he put out was very impressive from where he's gotten to today. Also, a few amazing documentaries coming up on ESPN. I know that the Jordan one kind of launched their documentary series even further into a positive landscape. We'll talk more about that. Before in the second hour is when we'll get heavy into the NFL schedule release, and we'll break all of that down for you starting at the 4 o'clock hour. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Back after this.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my password begin with a 1 or a 2? Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Ooh-dee-la-dee-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget. So ooh-dee-la-dee-do, yeah. Come on, here we go, yeah. Come on.
Here we go.
So put your best face on, everybody pretend you know this song. Everybody come hang. Let's go out with a bang. I'm way too young to lie here forever. I'm way too old to try, so whatever, come hang. Let's go out with a bang.
It's the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you as we continue on this Friday, looking into a lot of topics going on in the national landscape here. One of these days, hopefully soon, we're going to be talking about some, actual OSU scores, things like that. I'm very confident in that. I know everybody wants to know, hey, we're going to have a football season. There are going to be fans in the stands. I tell you what, man, those topics, I am 100% beating a dead horse from now on with all this. As much as we can go around and around. And it does change sometimes because the data continues to change with coronavirus.
Yeah,
but
I think the big thing we can say right now is it is trending with whatever AD or president you listen to, that we will have college sports back in the fall. I actually just saw a tweet this afternoon within the past hour that the interim OU president has said that he anticipates sports to be played in the fall.
And that's the right thing to say.
Right.
I completely get that, and I'm, right there with them. I don't see why it couldn't be done, if it's also done in a safe way, especially, and I say this again, around this area.
Yeah.
The Midwest region and the South have the best chances of anybody playing football.
Yeah.
And is it going to be in a limited fashion? Very well could be. And if it's just conference games, fine. But we might be at that point compared to the coasts, for instance.
Or even the
Big Ten.
The Midwest is what the Big Ten technically would be considered.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see a lot of stuff coming out from up north that of uncertainty. But when it comes to the Big 12, which even again go over to West Virginia, they believe that it's going to happen. And SEC, everyone's pretty much. I have not seen either an SEC or Big 12 AD or president or say that no, we don't envision being on campus, and that's the funny thing is Bowlesby has shifted the whole we have to be on campus for athletics to happen, and it feels like because Big 12 and SEC are saying, hey, we can be on campus, so if you guys can't, let's still play. It's almost like they're trying to concede for the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, who again right now I think a lot of people are believing those are the two conferences that might be affected the most. But if it's like hey, if you can still do online courses, they're still taking classes. Let's try to play football.
And we brought that topic up, and it was brought up to Bowlesby in one interview too, and I think we kind of saw a little organic reaction from him where he kind of thought to himself, you know what, that might actually work if we 100% had to come down to it. Fine.
Well, and we got to also keep in mind, we got to go back to the fact that with his initial comment that a lot of us ran with didn't actually truly dive deep into what he was saying. Is he was basically saying, he made it sound, if you really go back and listen to it, he was kind of insinuating if we're not able to have academia, we're not going to have sports. because he kind of made it sound like, and he said it since, of if the new norm, or we feel that doing distance learning is still just as potent as on-campus learning, then yeah, we can go through with sports, because that's the thing. Gundy said from everything he saw when he would sit in on Zoom classroom meetings and whatnot, he said it didn't seem any different, and that's the thing. A lot of students anymore, a lot of student athletes do online courses anyway.
Oh yeah, student athletes for sure.
Yeah,
and there's smaller campuses that maybe not D1 schools obviously, but are all online. I mean, it's something that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, there's some majors where it's because I've talked with a story for the News Press, talked with a zoology student who talked about the chemistry labs that she was in this semester, how difficult those are because you're not able to get the hands-on experience with the chemicals, and she's also trying to do some on-campus teaching and stuff like that, because her secondary emphasis is in teaching, and like you're not getting that aspect. And for those people, yeah, it's tough. But most of those student athletes, that's stuff that they worry about after sports, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And if you get reports of, hey, the grades aren't slipping and we're staying pretty consistent, if not better, where we were on all this, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this could work.
Yeah.
If we have to do distance learning, fine. If only athletes are able to come on campus, fine. We're going to have football.
I think, again, before we take a break, if right now, if you had to say, if we had to say, are we going to have college athletics in the fall? I would say yes, with two stipulations. It can change if, now that states are opening back up, we see another wave and they decide to say, okay, we need to make social distancing a more permanent, not just a 2-month thing. The other stipulation is we could have it, but likely potentially no fans, and at that college level.
Yeah, at the college level, and I'm with you that I'm still, and I have been the entire time, of the belief that we will have sports in the fall, especially college football, and I think that there probably, if there's going to be fans, I've said that there won't be. If there's going to be, it's going to be in a very limited fashion, because, and Tom and I talked about this yesterday, was I just don't know how universities would be able to, and this would come down with, without giving out liability statements or giving out some type of announcement that, hey, you're at your own risk here.
Right.
When you come into the stadium, you can't hold us liable for older people.
You'd have to print those on the tickets.
You would. That's what I'm saying.
To be honest.
Yeah.
But because that's the thing is, like, there's already, on most tickets, there is a, like, especially if you go to a baseball game, it's on the ticket, it says, you're not responsible for fly balls or bats,
exactly.
Be aware. Yep. But that's different from, like, you know that you can be on the lookout for an errant foul ball or a bat being dislodged when the guy's swinging. You can't be aware of the fact that the person that you have no idea, that you just happen to have season tickets right in front of, may have the disease. Like that's the tough thing for the universities and for fans.
But universities could literally just, and I think this would absolve them if they go online, for instance, and even print it out on the tickets, and it says, we're not responsible for any illness that you contract, including coronavirus from whatever.
But at the same time, does that impact? That's the thing. There's already stipulations being made. If you're a fan and they're shoving contracts in your face while you're trying to walk through the gate that you have to stop and sign, how ridiculous does that come off as a fan? And how many people would be unwilling to do it? Not just because, I don't care. It's like, I don't want to hassle with. I want to go to a game. I don't want to go to court.
Yeah.
In Gallagher-Iba Arena.
I think at this point, they would consider it less of a hassle if it really meant them getting to have butts in the seats, which looks like it's going to be hard to do anyway. So if that actually did become a real thing again, I think most of them would be like, you know what, this minor inconvenience, fine.
Well, and here's the difficult thing with that is you could send those out, those waivers and whatnot, but at the same time, a lot of tickets are sold on the secondary market.
Mm-hmm.
How are those people going to get those?
You know what? I would be doing
rights.
I would be doing every single person that walked through a gate. I'm not kidding. It would slow down the process. If that meant opening up a lot earlier, fine, whatever. But if that's what it has to come down to, and every single person has to get a freaking waiver, and it means fans are sitting in Boone Pickens and the atmosphere is still there, fine. Because if I'm watching it on TV, am I really caring that much if there's fans in the stands? I mean, not as much as I would be if I were there. Now, if I'm a diehard college football fan and I love going to games in person, that's when it's really going to bother me. So I don't think it's going to be, even if there's no fans, this huge outcry from the majority of people, because sports are widely consumed on television, right? I mean, that's just how it is. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes about, and will there be actual physical handouts and everything. And still ways down the road, but also when you think about it, we're getting closer and closer when it comes to college sports. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL schedule release. We'll break down the Chiefs schedule. We'll break down some of the Cowboys schedule. We'll talk about some of the games that just sparked our interest right away. All of that's next on hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
She like my futuristic sounds in the new spaceship. Futuristic if a Philip cake. She never need a man, she what a man need. So I keep on falling for her daily. We was at Coachella going crazy. Stack a couple M's like I was shady. Now I'm in Tribeca like I'm Jay-Z. Rockin' Sorayama like he pay me. I just signed a new deal with Mercedes. Got me moving dirty like I'm Swayze. All my diamonds dancing like they Swayze. All my diamonds hitting like they Swaley. Jet so big, got a business and a coach. Always living on the road, rocking Louis a la mode. And for that money I've been feeling. Cali was a mission, but now it's leaving.
What up? It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, hour number 2. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist here with you, wrapping up your week. Thanks for hanging out with us on Friday. Hope everybody's enjoying their Friday so far. Fantastic weather here in Stillwater. Last night it stormed like crazy, but today cooled off. Go enjoy it. Of course, wait till after 5 to do so, because that's how long you have us with you. And we're going to start talking some NFL schedule release. Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Ooh, that just rolls right off the tongue every time. Will host
Reigning, defending.
We'll host the Houston Texans Thursday night, September 10th, to open up the season. And as Jason informed me before,
knock on wood, massive knock on wood.
I'm
that Thursday I might be at the game. According to my parents, they purchased tickets for me and my wife to go.
You know what? I'm cautiously jealous right now.
That's my problem, is like, because I came in and I told you, I'm like, I'm one of the people that really, really want sports to come back now.
Yeah.
Because again, obviously I want sports to come back because that's my job. Both of the news press and here at this radio station.
Right.
But I now know, I have the knowledge that I have tickets and a parking pass to go see the banner unveiling of the Kansas City Chiefs, as I wear my Kansas City Chiefs hat, and would have had I almost wore the championship T-shirt in today, but I realized I was going to be spending about 5 hours at work, and I was like, I probably ought to dress at least with a collar, I guess, if I'm going into the office.
See, I love it because the parking pass, like, those things are not cheap, man.
Yeah.
You throw on, like, what is it, like $100 or maybe like $50 to some places.
I think I think at Kansas City at Arrowhead they start around 40. I think.
Yeah, I mean, so
for parking, yeah.
That's just for parking. I mean, when you get everything thrown in like that, and as you said, the banner raise, which that's the best part.
Yeah. Well, because my dad mentioned that he was going to get the tickets just for because originally we were going to try to do for the whole family, but I mean, understandably, after you win a Super Bowl, you can even in a pandemic, you can raise the prices a little bit. Because I was looking at last night. I was just curious because you could still kind of look and get an idea, and it was basically $200 per ticket for nosebleed.
And you know what? Last year, it was honestly close to that midway through, if not the entire season.
Oh, yeah. So, on the secondary. Well, and that's on the secondary market.
Yeah.
This is directly from the Chiefs website. It was $200 for nosebleed, and they got us tickets second row from the field.
That's insane,
in
man.
I think they said the north end zone. So
you're going to be able to hear Mahomes yell after he scores a touchdown.
I'm probably going to. Oh God! I don't think we've had our discussion or my discussions or my hatred about Eric Fisher.
Oh really?
Oh my goodness! if next time you see CY, ask him I think I joked about it in the middle of last season with a couple of Chiefs friends of mine, including Ben Johnson, who's done some work for the Tulsa World. I was like, my one complaint about again, this was before what happened last year. I was like, my one concern about the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl is that means Eric Fisher gets one.
Oh, it was that level of hatred.
I hate him. And again, I was never a big Alex Smith fan while he was here, but it was more out of just I felt that they could do better. I always took the approach of I felt the Chiefs had to be ahead going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Or the game was lost.
Right.
He was never again the rude term. He's a game manager. He was a great one at it. But with the talent they had and the defense they had, like if you go look at the numbers. The offense and defensive numbers that were put up with Alex Smith as when he was the quarterback in Kansas City, they should have been getting to the AFC Championship games, but they were losing the playoffs or not making the playoffs. So, but Eric Fisher, I have difficulties finding the GIF, but I always would. I knew exactly when he was to blame for quarterback pressure or a loss of yardage from a run, and I always tweeted out, here's my patented Eric Fisher tweet. But being in the second row, there's a good chance I could get showered by beer from Eric Fisher.
That's true. That was one of the best celebrations I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Loved it. I actually had it as my phone background because someone had got a picture of him just dumping beer like perfectly. It was like high def. It was awesome. Yeah. Eric Fisher, I remember specifically in the game against the Patriots in 2018 in the AFC Championship, there were multiple times where Mahomes was facing serious pressure and it was coming from his side.
Oh yeah.
And at that point it was like, seriously, Eric Fisher again.
He is.
So I get it.
He is the Ole blocker. It's just like Ole. Everyone just running past him. So, but no, I mean second row.
That's awesome.
Maybe Tyreek Hill jumps up into my lap or something like that. Maybe I can hand him an OSU hat to wear. Some memories for him.
I think he'd wear that. Yeah, he'd be like, what? Yeah. Let's move on and look into the Chiefs' schedule.
Well, and besides the obviously the big aspect of pregame, what's your take of the Texans being the quote marquee matchup for the unveiling?
I think it's an easy win. So, I mean, really,
I'm okay. We'll talk about that.
You know what it reminds me of, though.
But if, as a fan, would you rather have them faced a rival, or obviously you can't do your marquees against Tampa Bay, Baltimore, or New Orleans, but heck, even in my mind, even the Patriots without Brady, or to me, I made the comment to my dad and my brother. The team I would have, the two teams I would have, well, the three teams I would have loved to have seen the Chiefs play in that home opener when they raised the banners, is the AFC West teams.
Well,
I would
yes.
I would want to see the Raiders, Chargers, or Broncos have to watch that. That to me would be amazing.
That would have been a nice little rub in the salt in the wound. Yeah, and even with the Patriots, because I would have to think if Tom Brady were still there, that would have been the game. Because
essentially, yeah.
What was it, 2017? I think it was when they opened at New England. The Chiefs opened the season at New England and beat them, right? And it was like that, and it was still Alex Smith, and he had one of the best games he's ever played and made a couple throws I couldn't believe he actually ended up making, and it was like, whoa, that was it. It was like the Chiefs are maybe they're finally there, and it was moving on a couple years later. Yeah, if Tom Brady was still there, I think they would have opened up against them. It almost reminds me a little bit with the Texans, for instance, of like a high school game when you schedule a weaker opponent for your homecoming game because you want to win. I don't know if...
well, I mean, if you wanted to go that week, it would be... You schedule the Chargers.
Right, it would make more sense to schedule the Chargers or Raiders.
But that's what you get in week 2, though, instead.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, the Texans, and to shift it to what's going to happen there, I just see it as not much of a challenge. No DeAndre Hopkins. I think the Texans are in trouble with their management right now.
I was going to say, let's not forget they still have Bill O'Brien.
The
as
way
their head
that they're
coach.
being run has a lot to do with how unsuccessful they're going to be. I don't think Deshaun Watson's happy
No.
enough to where it may even affect his play. I don't know. I think he's a great quarterback.
Who's he going to throw it to?
Yeah, but if he gets extremely frustrated early on, they could spiral.
Who's he going to throw it to? Do you feel the running back he got from Arizona is he good enough to?
David Johnson he'll get hurt too early.
That's also valid.
And your only options are Kenny Stills and Brandon Cooks. And Will Fuller won't last. He's not healthy all the time.
That's the thing, and I tweeted out when they landed Cooks first off you spend a second-round pick, which, by the way, DeAndre Hopkins you got a second-round pick for, so you literally basically swapped DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and Brandon Cooks. And let's not forget, Brandon Cooks missed half of last year with concussion injuries, and it wasn't just the first concussion
he's
that he
had,
dealt with.
What was it, 4 or 5 documented over his career?
To me, when they traded for him, I'm like, okay, you really, truly have no idea what you're doing as a personnel person.
I love Brandon Cooks. He's a fantastic, talented wide receiver, but the concussion thing is scary. How many times it's happened to him?
Yeah, he's like late in his career, Wes Welker.
Yeah, you're right.
Where you're just
right.
waiting for him to just call it a career because he's one more concussion away from basically being a vegetable.
I agree. Now, see, with the Texans last year, we saw and the blow up against the Chiefs that never should have happened. Okay, really. Only a Patrick Mahomes-led team could manage something like that.
Thanks to McCole Hardman, that spark.
That's true. That's true. Those playmakers that we can name and we know them. That team was just good enough at that time offensively to make something like that happen. So when something like that does happen, very rarely, I think that really blew up what was left of the organization. Bill O'Brien's probably thinking to himself at that point, that was our chance right there, if I'm going to be honest.
Because that's the thing. If you look at that game, the fact that, again, the Chiefs won handily after being down that big, did the Texans make the necessary adjustments in personnel to overcome that loss?
Right. And
I don't think so.
No, and that's what you have to do. And I'm not just saying this as a Chiefs fan. Like, I'm saying this as an observer of NFL football.
Oh, in all sports.
Yeah.
If you want to beat the best guy on the block, you need to improve after that year, and they didn't do that.
It's not a bad thing to admit that you have to chase a team.
Right.
Because that's what everyone's doing.
Heck, even the Mayock in Vegas, Drew Lock in Denver, they've all said, "Hey, we're chasing the Chiefs in our own division."
Yeah, they've admitted it, and it's not a surprise. I mean, we all see it, but if you don't load up and if you don't get the right personnel and effectively trade away personnel that can help you.
And that's why I feel bad. And I think you may be onto something. Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't be surprised if they get off to a slow start, if you hear rumors of he's not going to resign or stuff like that. Because if you look at what Denver and Vegas and San Diego did in the offseason to put playmakers on their offense, if the Texans would have done that, I thought they would have been a formidable team because they actually have a quarterback.
Oh yeah, and Deshaun Watson is incredibly talented. I mean, he's my top 5 quarterbacks probably right now on the active quarterbacks in the NFL. Right. He can get it done. Now people realize that DeAndre Hopkins was great, but you don't realize he was also Deshaun Watson's bailout.
Yeah.
If Deshaun just threw the ball up there, DeAndre was going to go get it every time.
Yep.
The best hands in the league, in my opinion. Dude doesn't miss. One of the best route runners ever.
Yeah.
And they shipped him off for nothing. And it would have been something how they got something in return, okay?
Yeah.
But David Johnson is not the answer.
Imagine if the Saints would have traded away Michael Thomas.
It would have been the same thing. That's
just
for
as
nothing.
Yeah.
So,
just as idiotic.
So to me, now, if they had the same team as last year coming in, and they had DeAndre Hopkins healthy and Will Fuller healthy, and the running back situation you can take in whatever, but Deshaun Watson healthy, maybe it's more of I don't know if it would be a huge blowout for the Chiefs, so they might still win. But this way, with the personnel they have right now, I see the Chiefs opening up with a pretty sizable victory in Week 1, barring anything crazy going on.
Well, and just real quick, because I know we were going to break each one down, but I had to tweet it out when the Chiefs sent out the infographic of the first 4 games. I made the comment that the NFL has set it up for the Chiefs to secure the number 1 seed within the first month.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because when you're facing essentially 3 division winners from last year in the first 4 weeks, and all 3 of the 2 of the 3 are not nearly as good as they were a year ago, and then your other opponent you face is arguably one of the weaker in your division, with Houston, then the LA Chargers, Baltimore Ravens, New England to open up. You could, if you go 4-0, you're on the driver's seat for the number 1. I mean, it's going to take some wow moments. Maybe again, at that point, you can probably even lose to Brady and Breeze and still have the 1 seed locked up. Because if you have the head-to-head against the Texans, Ravens, and New England, even if New England, maybe is not nearly as good without Brady, I think they're still going to be on a fringe type team that could make the playoffs. And again, if they win that division, because again, no one else has been able to win it while Brady and Belichick have been there, that's still somebody that you would have a head-to-head over.
Well, here's the thing. That 1 seed, all of a sudden, is much more coveted than it ever was.
Exactly.
Being the only one that gets a bye.
Yep.
So when you look at that, are the Chiefs finally that team where you're like, you know what? If they jump out to a 4 or 5-0 start, and say the Ravens, one of their top competitors, or maybe even the Patriots, the Bills, you can go on and teams you think are successful in the AFC, you look at all of them and say, if they don't jump out to just about as good of a start, is it almost like, well, there goes that 1 seed?
Yep.
I mean, it really, and if you're in the division, if you're the Broncos, Raiders, or Chargers, and you jump out to a 2-2 or a 1-3, it's almost at that point like you're just going to kiss it goodbye. Chiefs are going to be hard to beat in the division anyways, right?
Yeah.
Now, you have to give credit. The AFC West had a pretty darn good draft. I mean, they did what they could to bolster up some rosters.
But again, they're still going to be young, a lot of inexperience. Again, you're going to have 3 quarterbacks now, 2 with not a lot of experience, and then one that's doesn't matter how experienced he is, he's not very good. It's
true.
He's just not. Carr is not a great quarter. He's not an elite quarterback. He's not even.
Hey, I don't buy that.
He's bottom 10.
I don't buy that he's even going to be starting to come into the season with Mariota. I think that there's going to be a healthy battle.
I think they'll definitely battle. I think he'll get the start, but probably won't stick around. Right now, I'd put Carr behind Locke. And again, I'm not totally impressed with Locke, but in the small sample size, he's been better than what Carr has for his entire career.
He really has. Let's take our break now, and when we come back, we'll discuss the rest of the schedule for the Chiefs. I know we have Cowboys fans to listen to, and I'm going to give my Cowboys record for what's going to happen to them this season. And we'll talk about a couple of games in Week 1 that you definitely will not want to miss. That's all coming up right after this.
But if you had this life, you'd understand. Everything's a lot of up and down. But I ain't gonna let it get me down. Nah. Yo, hey, 2016 hit me like a bag of bricks. Yup, 2017 switched up like, ooh, it's lit. I nearly had a mental breakdown and 8 months later had a hit. Yeah, I guess life is like a box of chocolates, son. You never know what you finna get. Yeah, think about this for your flip. There's always 2 sides of the coin.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Sitting there looking all
Yeah, Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you, hanging out Friday. Wrapping up the week as we talk about NFL schedule releases. Came out last night. Hey, you got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills here for keeping up with the social media game. Do you see they changed their name to?
Yeah.
They're now the primetime Bills
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
All they do is make the playoffs for the first time in like 15 years, and suddenly they think they're hot.
Yeah, they freaked out about it. It's not like you won a Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years.
Yeah.
Anyways, week 1.
Shoot, it's not like they even won a playoff game last year.
That's true. Oh boy, Bills. Okay, let's look at Chiefs' schedule. I'll tell you. You want to go first on record, or you want me to go first on record overall?
Are we gonna go game by game, or are we just gonna say what we feel?
Say your overall record first, and then we'll look at game by game.
Overall record, I'm probably feeling right now. Again, barring the freak injuries like they dealt with last year, and not just Mahomes. I'm talking, Tyreek early in the year, stuff like that.
Pretend those don't happen.
Right now, looking at the schedule, I'd predict them at 14-2.
Exactly what I had them. And my 2 losses, see if you agree with these, were to Tampa Bay and New Orleans.
Those are the 2 that I would have right now, but you never know.
And look, when I say those, a part of me, there's no when I look in my head, I'm like, there's no reason they couldn't go 16-0, okay? But people don't realize how hard that is in the NFL for any team.
No. Yeah, I'm right there with you, and that's why I looked at it as they're not going to go 16-0. Who are the teams that I think have the best chance?
That's what I thought
of
too.
Beating them?
And the only reason when people are like, why are you giving the Bucs so much credit here? I mean, the Tom Brady's old and Gronk's old, but
there's a lot of talent in the passing game and the running game in Tampa.
All it would take for me is I could see the Bucs Chiefs game being a shootout. Whoever had the ball last, and if Mahomes happens to not get the ball and Tom Brady does,
it could literally be like the AFC title game last year.
So that's why I threw that one on there. For the Saints, I could see them beating the Saints too, and another shootout possibly.
Right.
But again, it's kind of the same reasoning for me. If Drew Brees has the ball last,
my thing with that one is, and it's no disregard to Patrick Mahomes and what he's done in his career, because everyone talks about those games are being on the road, and some people have argued, can he shake that off? And he's only lost three road games in his career, so I mean it's no big deal. He's 14-3. But it's on the flip side. The Saints don't lose at home.
They really don't.
And you can look at last year's postseason game, and I said it as you were putting your headphones on, and so you didn't hear me say it. The Vikings cheated to win that game anyway.
We all know that was the second year in a row that the Saints got screwed in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. There was a shove. 100% there was a shove.
Absolutely.
So the Saints, that's why I have that one marked down as a likely loss for the Chiefs, is because the Saints don't lose at home. That is one of those places where when you talk about home field advantage, there truly is 100% without a doubt a home field advantage. Just like Arrowhead is. I think if those two games were in Arrowhead, I'd
flip flop them. Maybe
I would consider the Chiefs going 16-0. Yeah.
I think I would be more inclined to do that too, with it being in Kansas City, because as you and I well know, the same effect takes place there, if not more so, at Arrowhead. So and then let's look at the schedule here at the top. Okay, Texans Chiefs. Again, I'm not really seeing a hugely competitive ball game there.
Yeah,
a lot of it's going to be in play with we're raising the Super Bowl banner.
I think the Chiefs are going to be hyped up enough. Again, prime time, and that's the thing. Remember people arguing that Mahomes hasn't been very good in prime time. He hasn't been very good in prime time. Well, what happened in the playoffs? He won in prime time, including a Super Bowl. So that whole argument from your pro football talk and all those idiots who who have the hot take of the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs or anything like that.
That was my favorite hot take of last year.
Yeah, you told me that. Again, there are some people who just want to go Skip Bayless and just make a hot take because for the sake of I want to be a viral idiot.
Right.
But this is a game where the Chiefs are going to be hyped. The Chiefs are, and to me, it's a case where if there's fans there and if I'm getting to be one of them, we will will them to win that one.
Oh, and here's my prediction how the game even starts, okay? it's going to be a 4-play drive, and the Chiefs are going to score quick, and it's going to be that intro into the season. It might even be the first touchdown of the year where it's like, hey, we never left.
It'd be great if McCole Hardman just returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. That would be the perfect.
You wouldn't even have to put Mahomes.
Perfect start, exactly.
If they win the toss, they're going to defer to the second half, so you have to hope that they lose the toss.
Would you, though? Like, if I'm Andy,
That's true.
I almost, for this one game, I go...
Open the season, yeah.
Yeah, we need to...
You know what?
Let's
get on the
do
board.
it. And I could see Patrick Mahomes getting it, because, again, they're now starting to listen to their quarterback of him saying, hey, if we win this one, I
want the ball.
I want the ball this time.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Game 2. We kind of talked about... did you say this on air to me yesterday when you said the rumor about the AFC...
NFC.
NFC thing. Yeah, that obviously is not true.
No, not by any stretch of imagination. Unless it was worded wrong, and it was supposed to be AFC only faces AFC, and then I need to look at it.
Yeah, because
technically the Chiefs are only playing AFC opponents to open the first 4 games.
Right.
So maybe that's what they meant to say.
It could be, because that's what we're going to get into now. Game 2, Chiefs-Chargers at LA, new stadium, no fans. Anyways, probably, if they're even allowed.
Yeah. They don't have to worry about cutting down to a cap or anything.
Here's the thing. I could almost throw up a possible tight game, between the Chargers at any point, because I think that their offense is very well run. It's going to be, at least, and I think they have plenty of stars on that offense, and the defense isn't that bad either. The question will be, is Justin Herbert going to be the quarterback? And if so, how does he succeed? That's game 2. So if he's quarterback... Already, I take that as a win because it's going to be early on in his career. If it's Tyrod Taylor, I'm taking it as a win no matter what.
We also have to keep in mind, Chiefs are getting 10 days to prepare for that game.
That's right. That
10 days. They're going to get to watch whoever starts at quarterback that first Sunday.
You don't give the Chiefs 10 days to prepare.
No.
So, you definitely throw that in there. That's 2 wins. The Ravens, that's where a lot of people in Game 3 have the first loss I've seen on the board because everyone's so in love with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And it was
Lamar Jackson.
It was even the case when Lamar first entered the league, and everyone was like, Baltimore, oh my gosh.
Right.
And the Chiefs, the first game they played, it came down to the wire, right?
Yeah.
And in Game 2, they looked, and the second time they played them, very comfortable. I mean, the Chiefs look comfortable playing the Ravens to me.
Yeah.
And people are acting like that it's in prime time. That's a Monday night game.
Monday night, yep.
And
I believe the only Monday night game
it is for the Chiefs.
Remember, yeah.
So they have a Thursday and a Monday in the first 3 games of the year.
Yeah.
So, but to me, that's a win. It could be close. It's going to be a close game, I think. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout either side, and I respect Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But as we saw last year, Lamar, when he gets in the playoffs and all his career, he struggled so far.
Well, let's keep in mind, by Game 3, Hollywood Brown will come down with another injury of some sort, a heel or something. And that's really been the only threat that they've had in the passing game last year, and outside of Mark Andrews. But again, are you really going to – do you feel that you can beat the Chiefs by only passing to a tight end?
They couldn't before.
Yeah.
And, I mean, really – if another team,
I'm still calling it at some point, Mark Ingram's going to start falling apart.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those matter of time things,
especially after how much they put on him last year.
Yeah. Now they drafted running back, and they got they still have Gus Edwards
and Justice Hill. Yeah, but they don't have. The way their system runs is they need a workhorse. And if Mark Ingram breaks down, I don't think those three options right now in game 3, if Mark Ingram were to go down with injury by then, that those guys would be able to brunt the load.
Yeah. And the Ravens, they can run all they want, but it comes a point where you have to pass the ball to win the game, and people are going to be like, hey, Lamar, he did a little bit of it. Yeah, I'm still not convinced that he's going to sit there on 3rd and 8 and convert for you every time. Patrick Mahomes is.
Yep.
Now, you're going to have to be one of those games where you have to answer every single thing the Chiefs do. I'm not 100% convinced still that Lamar Jackson is a pure passer, because he's not. He can run like crazy. Best running quarterback in the game by far. But when it comes to staying in the pocket and making strong throws down the middle of the field.
And that's why I almost want to, kind of say that I would favor the Chiefs more so in that game, because I almost feel like Lamar might get caught up in the hype of that game. Because we've seen him talk about, made the comments, not bad for a running back. Well, what better way to shut up those people than I can outshine Patrick Mahomes, the golden arm. If he has that mindset and that mentality, it could backfire on him in prime time.
I was so sick of the not bad for a running back thing. Like, it was so driven into the ground.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think because of that, we got a great comment from Mahomes when he made that run. He was like, did I look like Lamar out there?
And then you got even a better comment from Lamar when he was in Kansas City. He said, I'm going to be honest, I hate playing against Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not even on defense.
Yeah.
But, look, the thing with the whole running back deal, they were just talking about that's what he looked like he was better at doing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, race got thrown into it, too, and that had nothing to do with anything. Yeah. I mean, it's just the whole thing bothered me. Okay.
Yeah, I will say briefly, going back to his highlights last year, most of his highlights were his runs. Let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's be honest.
He made the occasional good throw, but it was all running.
Yeah.
Patriots Chiefs. Tom Brady-less Patriots in Kansas City in Week 4. I have that as a win.
Does Reed go for 50 in that one?
I mean, he'd be like, you know what? Hey, Bill.
I hope now that he's a Super Bowl champion coach, he takes the same approach of because remember last year when Bill Belichick had the opportunity to run up the score against hapless Jets and Dolphins, he did it.
Absolutely. And you know what? The Patriots and Bill Belichick, he's going to be on a mission this year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's his time to shine and prove I don't need Tom Brady.
Well, and I think you can send a message, and as much as you have the Texans and Ravens, I think you can send the biggest message within the first week or the first month if you go out there and just put it to New England. I'm talking win by 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Then people are saying, okay, not only were you able to beat the teams that you could, who have the talent, but you were able to beat the mastermind as well pretty handily.
Look, if Jarrett Stidham is still the quarterback and he's sitting there, he's not going to beat the Chiefs, okay? He's not going to win and outscore them. That's the problem every team knows going in facing Kansas City is we got to outscore these guys. Good luck doing it.
Yeah. All right, we need to speed up with the rest of the Chiefs so we can get to the Cowboys fans.
Raiders, win. I don't really see a lot of competition there, and they know it. Bills.
I've had people talk about short week, having to go on the road, but I looked up a stat for you.
Yep.
Last year, the Chiefs failed to score 21 or more points in one game last year. In just one game, and that was against the Colts where they just ran the ball and kept Mahomes off the field. Mm-hmm. Bills last year scored more than 21 points in just 5 games. Yeah. So I disagree with people saying, "Oh, this could be a trap game or whatever." The Bills can't score,
and they did look.
Diggs isn't going to suddenly give them 10 extra points per game.
I think people are adding on to that too much, saying that Stephon Diggs is going to be a game changer. Josh Allen, I mean, come on, he's still Josh Allen.
He's still got to get it within 5 yards of Diggs to be able to catch it.
So I don't 100% buy that one at all. That's another primetime game again. That's a Sunday night game, right? Thursday night game. That's short week. So I see that win there. Chiefs Broncos win
there. Yeah,
that's in Denver.
Jets by how much?
Jets and Chiefs next week. That won't even be close. Neither will the next one. The Panthers, I believe, coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious who the quarterback is by then.
If it's Teddy, is it the guy from the XFL by the time that they grab?
That's true.
How much work will C-Mac have on him?
Then a Week 10 bye to prepare for the Sunday night game against at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, you know what they might do on that bye is it might just be solid vacation time. You don't really have to prepare for that game. Raiders again in Las Vegas win.
As long as Kelsey stays out of the casinos.
That's right.
It's a guaranteed win.
Keep them away from that. Chiefs Bucks. That's my first loss and yours too.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon in Tampa. Has a lot to do. It'll be interesting to see by that time how Tom Brady's faring, how everything's gelling.
I would have felt better that game being early, within the first 4 weeks.
Me too.
Because like you said, by then Brady, as long as he hasn't fallen apart, I think he'll have that system running pretty smoothly.
Yeah, I agree. So first loss possibly there. Broncos at Chiefs win.
Another Sunday night
game. Win in primetime there. Chiefs at Dolphins in Miami getting to face Tua for the first time. Not really going to be an issue at all, I believe. So we both have wins there. And then next week at the Saints. Now that's scheduled for a 3:25 game, and you and I both said immediately that could be flex by the time it's all said and done, possibly. But then we looked at who the Sunday night game was.
Flex is 49ers Cowboys, and that's two names that it's going to be hard unless both teams, and I think we both agree they could be just 8-win teams by then.
And if they are, there would be no reason to keep that game in prime time when you have Drew Brees against Patrick Mahomes. Come on.
If the 49ers and Cowboys, if neither of them are in playoff contention by week 15, that I would assume that one gets flexed in. Because,
it has to be.
Because again, we're looking at likely the only matchup ever between Mahomes and Brees.
Right.
In
and
that one.
They need as many eyes on that as possible. Falcons at Chiefs next week. After that, the Falcons I think are going to be a little better than they were last year, but not.
Here's the mean thing that the NFL did, though. You're going to make Atlanta a dome team come to Arrowhead for the last Saturday of December.
Yikes.
That's just mean.
They might as well practice like with outside in real snow and stuff, just in case in frigid temperatures. But where do you go? You would have to like rent out Lee Summit High School.
You'd have to like pump the AC up in your indoor facility to just get it down to a balmy 50 in Atlanta.
I'm saying you just go to a colder climate, man. Forget Atlanta by that point. Okay, and then they wrap up the season. Chargers come into town again on January 3rd. There, and I believe that would also be a victory. So
I saw a crazy stat that was thrown out after the schedule released. The Chiefs are the only team this upcoming season in which they have 4 back-to-back road games. All of the road games are literally back-to-back.
That's true. Yeah, I look into that schedule. Yeah, and you know what? Not really necessarily that easy either. If you look at L.A. and Baltimore back-to-back. Let's look at this other one real quick. Buffalo, Denver back-to-back. Las Vegas and Tampa Bay back-to-back. And then Miami, New Orleans
back-to-back. Yeah,
that's not necessarily an easy road schedule. You talk about being all over the place. So,
well, and one of them, actually 2 of them. Oh no, all 3 of the 4 that go back-to-back include a primetime game.
There you go. Even more so.
Yeah.
I guess I could say this: the pressure can be on a little bit this season, and it always is after a team that just won the Super Bowl, especially if you're just as good as you were last year. So, but everything plays in the Chiefs' favor, I truly believe.
Yeah,
they get the primetime games, they get the early time off to prepare for Game 2 to start the season. They could easily jump out to what was it? I looked at like an 8 or 9-0 record before they face Tampa Bay and have their first super real challenge, I guess. I don't know, but I don't know. It looks good to me. I like the schedule, and I'm all for the leadoff game of the season, and I really hope for your sake that fans can be there, because that's one you want to see as a Chiefs fan.
Sure.
When we come back, we'll talk Cowboys. We'll look at their schedule, as well as look at the strength of schedules throughout some of the NFL, and mention maybe a game or two we're really excited about in Week 1. That's all next to wrap up the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Wrapping up the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Thanks for joining us, hanging out with us all day here on Friday for the last couple of hours. Hope you've enjoyed all the live programming we've had on Triple Play Sports Radio Network today. We're talking NFL schedule release that happened last night. Broke down the Chiefs' schedule in this second hour. And we'll wrap up the show with the Dallas Cowboys, looking at their schedule. Because I know we have Cowboys fans that listen. Why they're Cowboys fans, I don't know. But they are. So starting off the season, Jason, you won't believe this, but the Cowboys have a primetime game to start off the season. How shocked are you on that one?
I am so glad that the Chiefs open on Thursday, because then I don't have to pay attention to football the rest of the season, rest of the weekend, especially because of this matchup. Sunday night at the LA Rams.
Oh boy!
Hold on, Okay, yeah, that logo I think is actually the Rams, not the Chargers. It's so confusing anymore.
Well, the Rams are still taking L's on how bad their logo change was.
Oh, they're
awful.
They're facing a LA team, and again at LA. And as I joked to you, it's going to be. I can't wait for NBC to hype it up as the matchup between two overhyped, overpaid quarterbacks.
Here's what I'll say to it, because I 100% agree. Dak is overhyped, and he will be overpaid before it's all said and done. Jared Goff is overpaid. I still believe in him, as I told you over the break. I loved his first season, and you said, yeah, he's probably more of a system quarterback, which I can see that. I mean, it's easy to be when you have a coach like he does. When you look into it, though, if he bounces back this year, maybe more people believe, okay, maybe he was just one of those seasons.
Hopefully they have a running back to help him.
That's right. I'm still a Jared Goff guy, and I believe that's win number 1 for the Rams there. So loss number 1 for the Cowboys to start off the season.
For the sake and sanity of the Cowboys fans listening, I'll say Dallas at least wins their opener.
Okay.
So they at least don't go 0 for this year.
Yeah. See, I can't agree. I can't agree on that one. So you have them at 1-0. I've got them at 0-1. Next week, week 2 would be at Dallas.
Falcons.
Yeah, hosting the Falcons. Could that be a toss-up?
That's what's tough for me, is if it's Atlanta of last year, this could literally be the Eagles-Cowboys game from last year. Like, it could be a 14-9 game, and one of them has to win. If it's Atlanta from every other year prior to that under Matty Ice, I would take Atlanta in that one, even if it is in Dallas, because, again, Dallas doesn't have a true home field advantage.
It's true.
I can say I've been there once to cover it, to do a story on a couple of the OSU players, and it's all just a suit and tie affair.
Yeah, it's more of an outside show type deal compared to
most of the diehard football fans I see at Cowboy Stadium. Most of them are usually the opponent's fans.
Yeah,
weirdly enough.
Yeah. So are you going Falcons? Well, what's your pick there in week 2?
I'll base it off of quarterback play, and I'll go with Falcons. I think, again, Matt Ryan's a better quarterback, so I'll go with him in week 2.
I'm going to go the same way, pretty much the same reason. I still love Matt Ryan, and I think this year he's going to be like, you know what, new running back. I'm still got to use Julio while I have him. Is Calvin Ridley still on that team? I think he is. Let's make that happen. Yeah. I think they're going to be good enough, and early on when people have already counted them out in their division, then you have to think that they've got something to play for.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what a Todd Gurley does in that system.
It will. It really will. If he has the Devontae Freeman style of play going on for him, then he's successful. Yeah. So I'm going 0-2 to start for the Cowboys. You're going 1-1.
Yep.
Week 3 at Seattle. That's a big fat L for me.
Yeah, I got to go with an L as well. Russell Wilson, again, I'm going based off of quarterback play, and I would go with Russell Wilson winning that one at home.
Jason Witten. Didn't he go to Seattle?
No, he went to
the Raiders.
Yeah.
Who was it from? There's somebody from Dallas I thought that went to Seattle. I confused that one.
I'm not sure, yeah.
But yeah, and
so you got them starting 0-3.
I have them 0-3. I think Seattle's one of the better teams in the league, not going to lie.
Then they host Baker Mayfield's Browns. I'm going to say the winner of that game is whichever quarterback throws for fewer than 3 interceptions.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. I don't believe in the Browns.
No.
So much so that I believe more in the Cowboys. So I'm giving them their first win there in week 4. At that point, too, that would put them, for me, at 1-3, and heads would be rolling, and people would be freaking out and saying, let's get Andy Dalton in here, because we have to remember he's the backup.
Maybe he brings them back for a come-from-behind win over Baker Mayfield.
So you're saying maybe he's already in. Maybe he gets in the game.
Maybe he gets called off the bench in Game 4 to lead them to their first win.
Oh, wow. What a story. I'd be all over it.
Then they host the Giants. I'll take Dallas in that one.
I'll take Dallas too. I'll give them back-to-back wins there.
Yeah, primetime game against, I believe it's a Monday night game.
Yeah.
Against the Cardinals. I'm going to take Dallas, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be curious to see what Arizona can do with Kyler Murray in year 2.
I believe in Arizona. I like DeAndre Hopkins in that system.
Yeah.
I like Kenyon Drake as a running back. I like Christian Kirk. I love Kyler Murray.
My concern is Murray if he's able to do it if there's a shootout, because again their defense isn't very good. But at the same time, Cowboys aren't necessarily a team that's going to put up a shootout. So
right. It's in Dallas. Now, I'm still factoring in that Dallas's offense on paper is looking pretty good. But, yeah, it could be a shootout, but I'm still going Arizona there. You said Cowboys for
I'll go Cowboys,
now. Okay.
Yeah. At
Next
Washington, that's slam dunk. It should be a slam dunk for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Let me word it that way.
I'll give them a win on that one, too.
Another primetime game at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll go with Eagles in that one. Probably, again, 14-9.
I'm going Cowboys, believe it or not.
Wow.
In Philadelphia, I think by that time, if the record's where I have it, and they're like, you know what, we remember last year against Philadelphia.
Andy Dalton plays.
There was, Andy Dalton's already in. There's no reason they shouldn't have beat Philadelphia last year. What was the excuse besides head coach? And at that point, they're gonna be like, we got to beat them. They come away with the Philadelphia. They find a way to win in Philly, and all of a sudden, you got people's ears pricking up a little bit.
Just because they have to win doesn't mean they are going to win.
That's true. No,
they had to win at Philadelphia last year, and you know what they did? They didn't.
Hey, man, you're preaching to the choir over here. You know that. Okay, Steelers at Cowboys next week. After that,
the week after that, I'll go
comes
Steelers now because I assume Ben will be healthy and probably still playing.
That's
by
what I went
week 9.
off of. I went off of Ben Roethlisberger being healthy still by that time, and he's going to have a good season.
Yeah, if he gets re-injured or whatever, then I would take the Cowboys.
I would too.
Then.
But if it's Ben, I'm going Steelers because I think he's going to help that team get back to where they used to be. Next week, Cowboys at Minnesota.
Well, bye week actually, week 10,
bye week,
same as the Chiefs.
Right.
Yeah, and then at Minnesota, I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy. I'm not, but they'll find a way to win. I mean, if they can beat the Saints in the playoffs in New Orleans, even without Stephon Diggs, I mean, they did pick up a pretty talented wide receiver in the draft, so I'm going to go with the Vikings to win that one.
I'm like you. I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins guy. I'm going Cowboys in that one in Minnesota. So I'm giving them a couple of pretty nice road victories.
Then hosting the Redskins should be another win.
Cowboys win.
Does Chase Young in either of those games cause chaos and possibly knock Doc out?
Or Andy Dalton.
Or Andy Dalton.
Could be.
And then they call up Brandon Weeden to come out of retirement. Then another primetime game at Baltimore. Baltimore getting a couple of good primetime games there. I'll take Baltimore.
I'll take Baltimore as well. I think they're too tough to beat at home. Especially in a primetime, Lamar Jackson's going to run all over Dallas.
At Cincinnati, does Joe Burrow lead them into a win over the America's team?
No, and the only way he would is if somehow the Bengals are just doing overwhelmingly good by that point, which I don't think they will. Joe Burrow, he's going to be great in Cincinnati, but again, that whole team, I don't buy.
Well, you mentioned that at that point, Andy Dalton should be the quarterback for the Cowboys.
His whole team.
So Joe Burrow is going to say, hey, I got to prove that they made the right decision. I'm going to lead this team to win over Andy Dalton, the Dallas Cowboys. I'll go with the Bengals in that
one. I can see it.
I'll go with the Bengals right now.
I'm not 100% against
and again,
that.
I'm not buying into Joe Burrow yet, but
I am. So it's in Cincinnati. Okay.
Yep.
All right. You have them 49ers at Dallas.
The flex game that's currently prime time will likely. Well, again, at this point, I think both of us have the Eagle or the Cowboys at like 6 or 7 wins. So I think that gets flexed out. But I will give the win.
Okay.
The win. I think 49ers were just a product of an easy schedule last week. Last year.
I think they win that one too. It's in Dallas. I'm not sold on the 49ers being as good as they were either.
Hosting the Eagles to decide who wins the division with 8 wins. I'll go with the Eagles again.
I gave the Eagles the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt the first time. It's going to be just like last year, and the Eagles are going to get the win.
Okay.
So I'll give them the win in game 2.
Close at New England or with the Giants.
They should win that one, but
should in theory.
If they come off a loss to the Eagles,
I think they close with a win, but again, it won't be enough.
I do too. So did you tally up what your possible record? Mine is.
I gotta get out of here, but let me see if I can add it real quick.
Believe it or not, people that know I dislike the Cowboys. I have them sitting at 10-6. I don't know if you realize that, but I only had them with 6 losses before it's all said and done. I think that's achievable. I think the Dallas offense on paper is really good. The question is, and I've said it a bunch of times, and I'll say it one more time, if Dak Prescott doesn't prove it this year, then when's he going to do it? This is the year he has to prove it.
I think counting real quickly what I thought what I said they won, I think I only have them at 7 wins.
Really?
Yeah.
You were? Yeah. I was much more nice. Okay.
Yeah. I think I only had them at 7.
And
again, I think 7 or 8 ultimately is what they.
I'm with you, man.
I don't buy Dak. Dak's not elite.
I don't either. I really don't. I just think that they put too many good weapons around him for him not to succeed.
Yeah.
So
again, the only thing is possibly the quarterback or the coaching change could potentially be enough. Mm-hmm. If Jason Garrett were still the head coach, I would definitely say I'd lock it in 7 losses, 7 wins for sure.
Yeah, me too. Schedule would have been way different there for me. There you go. We broke down your Cowboys schedule. We broke down the Chiefs schedule. NFL's right around the corner. Very excited. It's going to happen. We're going to speak it into existence. The fans are in the stands too, so Jason can be there for opening night for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's Jason Elmquist. I'm Patrick Wheeler. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. Thanks for hanging out with us on Friday. We'll be back here on Monday, same place, same time.